Hey YouTube, it's Jeff at Darkmoon Metals. Now, I got Dana behind the camera and she's going to be helping me out film a new video series, and it's going to be an introduction to different types of welding. We intend to cover TIG, stick, and MIG. This video is going to be our introduction to stick welding part 1, also known as shielded metal arc welding. Now, for those of you who've watched any of my videos in the past, you know that I have posted a video on the basics of welding personal protection. It was done in a low quality video format, and I just want to kind of touch base on all of those points for the introduction for this video series. I want to start from head, work my way down to my feet. First thing I want to talk about is a welding helmet. Now, this welding helmet is an auto darkening welding helmet. It's really nice. There's no batteries. It's completely solar, and that's one of the things you want to look for. If the batteries go dead while you're using this thing, you're going to start getting lens flash, and that's really, really bad for your eyes. You want something that's going to protect you, and without fail, this will do that. Now, welding helmets can cost anywhere for auto darkening from $99 all the way up to several $100s. This one was about $150. It goes from shade 9 to shade 13. I picked this one up because I didn't want to spend several $100s on a high-end welding helmet while I was going to school, simply because things had a habit of walking away and leaving the classroom without my permission or consent. So I didn't want to take the risk and lose something that expensive. The next thing you want to do is also for eye protection, you want to wear safety glasses. Now, I know it may seem like overkill. I have a pair of safety glasses on under a welding helmet, but there's a reason for it, especially with stick welding. With stick welding, you're using a electrode covered with a flux. As the flux burns, it creates your shielding gas. There is no gas cylinder to worry about. But what also happens is as you're running your bead, that flux deposits a thin coat of slag over the weld, and that protects it while it's cooling. To get that slag off, you use a chipping hammer. And a chipping hammer basically looks like this. There's a bunch of different varieties of these out there. But when you typically chip the slag off your weld, you lift your welding helmet and you just kind of chip away at it. And at that point, if you're not wearing safety glasses, your eyes are exposed and you can get that in your eye, and that's really nasty stuff. Also, for your head, if you happen to be doing overhead welding, the welding helmet, you'll notice from the back, it doesn't offer any protection for the back of your head. And if you're looking up, sparks tend to sheet off the top, and it'll, hit your scalp and the back of your head, and sometimes it can go down your shirt. They do have a solution for that. Now, some people are wearing the old baseball hat, and they put it on backwards. They put their welding helmet on over it, and that will offer protection for the back of the head. The only problem is sometimes it's hard to get the welding helmet to fit right when you're wearing a regular baseball hat. So people tried do-rags. There's no rim at all on these things, just to kind of cover the back of their head, but a do-rag will still let the sparks go into your shirt. So the welding community came up with something a little better. This is a welder's cap. This one happens to be the Stars and Stripes, but you can get tons of different patterns out there. And you wear it backwards, just like your baseball hat on backwards, but the brim is shorter and it's also at a more steep angle. So when you put it on, it doesn't interfere with the tightening or loosening of your welding helmet, and it's a lot more comfortable sometimes, especially if you're looking up. You don't have the brim of the baseball hat, hitting you in the back and rubbing your back. Some people find that distracting. So now that we've got our head covered, we're going to move on to the body. Okay, now that we've got your head covered, we're going to talk about the rest of your body. Now, the clothing that you wear under your protective gear is just as important as the protective gear itself. One of the things you want to keep in mind is you're working with UV light, and you want to protect as much of your exposed skin as possible. In fact, you want no skin exposed if you can help it. So you want to wear a long sleeve shirt, and you want it to be made out of a natural material. You don't want things like rayon or polyester or anything like that. Those have a tendency to melt if they catch fire. Now, cotton, yes, it will burn, but it will only burn. So you can get burned, but you don't have to worry about plastics being melted into your burns or into your tissue. So it's just one of those things you want to take my word on. I did have a classmate set himself on fire by accident, of course, and he was wearing his shirt just like this. This was our school uniform, 100% cotton shirt. and he was wearing a band t-shirt underneath, or some kind of promotional t-shirt from a rock group, or whatever, and it had a almost like a laminated kind of iron-on type of thing. It was really, really high in plastic content. And he described the experience he went through as they were peeling it off of him, and it's not something I want to graphically get into on YouTube, but let's just say it wasn't pleasant. Take my word for it. You want to wear a pair of denim jeans. You want to wear something that's fairly decent. And keep in mind that when you do weld, you do not want to wear your good clothes. Go buy a pair of jeans you don't care about. Buy a shirt you don't care about, because you will get pinholes and burns and everything else in them. If you're going to be doing welding sitting down, your legs will create a catch basin for sparks. One of the things that you can do to avoid that is by wearing a leather welding apron, like so. And if you sit down, yes, sparks will still collect in your lap, but it will definitely protect your legs a lot more than just down. If you need more protection, if you are doing any type of overhead welding, well, unfortunately, welding follows the law of gravity, and sparks will fall on you. So, we created these great little thick guys over here. These are welder sleeves. You put it on just like a jacket. It offers protection on your top part of your chest, your shoulders, and your arms. Now, this is still brand new. This is what my school issued to me. And I honestly didn't really like it too much. I actually chose to do what I had been trained to do, what my father taught me, and wear this. It's a little bit more uncomfortable, but this is a full welding jacket. It protects my shoulders, my arms, my torso, my back, everything above my waist. And, it's just, it's reassuring knowing that you have that level of safety and you don't have to worry about getting burned as much. Now you notice that I have a lot of leather up here. You're probably thinking, wow, that stuff's really hot. Yeah, it is. So is welding. But leather is not the only option. Leather is my personal preference. You can get really heavy cotton or denim. There are other materials out there that will protect you just as good as leather. I choose leather because it's more durable, and it's what I've been using since I was 14 years old, and it's what I'm the most comfortable in. As I get older, my preference may change, who knows. Now, the last piece of leather gear that I want to talk about, other than your boots of course, are your gloves. Now, there are two different types of welding gloves out there that you'll see a lot of. There's TIG welding gloves and there are MIG welding gloves. Or, those are how they usually differentiate the two. Now, MIG welding, stick welding is pretty much the same glove. You want a nice heavy work gauntlet. You don't need a lot of dexterity in your fingertips. If you're using stick, the electrode is on your gun. If you're using MIG, the wire is coming through the MIG torch itself. TIG welding is different. You want to have all the flexibility in your fingers because you're feeding wire into your weld puddle. It's not being held by something, and you want that extra dexterity to feed that wire in. And you do that with both hands, so they have specialized gloves for that. But take it from me, you want a really good pair of heavy-duty welding gloves. Now, they make them with linings, without linings. They make them with reflective coatings. There are a lot of different options out there. Base models, you're looking at about $10 to $12 without linings in them. It will protect you from the heat. It'll protect you from any slag, sparks, things of that nature. And as opposed to regular work gloves, these are a lot longer. You'll notice that if you put them on, it goes up to the point where your cuff of your sleeve goes well within the glove, and that offers you a lot more protection than a regular run-of-the-mill work glove. All right, YouTube, we're going to wrap up this personal protection recap at our feet. And for your feet, you want a good pair of leather work boots. You don't want any canvas on these guys, not hiking boots. They put canvas on a lot of boots because it helps the boots breathe, it helps your foot stay ventilated. You don't want that because if you get sparks in the area where you have canvas, you will ignite your boots. And I am saying that not from experience, but I saw one of my instructors do it. It was kind of funny at the time, but I wasn't the one being burned. And after that, they had a lot of recaps on safety and yeah. So anyway, take my word for it. You want a good pair of high quality leather work boots. You don't want to be wearing sneakers. And you want a high top work boot. You want your pant leg to come down over the top of the boot. If you do have sparks coming showering down, you want them to shed off the side of your pant leg and not go into your boot. If you ignite your socks, you're not going to have a good day. Just take my word for it. Now, that's pretty much all on the personal protection recap as far as what you're wearing. What we're going to talk about next is the area around you and what to look for as far as potential hazards. When I talk about area hazards, I'm actually talking about things that can catch fire or things that can be damaged in the arc welding process. Things getting hit with sparks that were not meant to be hit with sparks. Now, people who weld are typically trying to create something. They're trying to repair something. They're not necessarily trying to burn down their home or damage other things. And some of the things that you want to look for are just anything that are easily combustible. You're not going to be arc welding in your living room. You're going to be arc welding in your garage or your work shed or some other place. The best place for it is actually outside. If you're on an asphalt driveway and you know there's nothing around you, you're pretty damn safe. But you can't do that all year long. So what I want to do is just address some of the simple things that you want to make sure that you do before you start arc welding. And I'm going to pan this around a little bit. Now I've got my wood burning stove over here. I'm not using it because it's still August. But, oh, look, got a little bit of newspaper down there. Now that's something that I would want to get rid of. It's within 10 feet of my table that I'm going to do my arc welding on, and if sparks hit that, that will catch fire. Panning over, yep, got a couple of rags, did a little bit of work on a car, maybe just kind of threw those in the corner. Want to get those out of here. Now, oh, cardboard box, yep, got a delivery of something. You know what? That is a catch basin for sparks, and it will catch fire. Now, there's a lot of other hazards around the garage that you might not really be aware of. I got the old plumber's furnace in the back there, but there's no propane in that. The thing's been empty for years. But I've got a couple containers of air compressor oil for my my air compressor over here. Got a couple more boxes. That stuff's all pretty safe. I don't want to set my root beer on fire. Oh, what's this? Oh, there's a 5-gallon can of kerosene. Now, yes, I know these things are there. I'm not really this stupid, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of what to look for. We do have a kerosene heater, and we use it to preheat the garage before we get the stove started. We definitely want to make sure things like that are outside of the welding area. Any place sparks can go, you want to eliminate these things. Over here we have a can of stain. There's just a lot of things out here that can be considered flammable or hazards. This is my father's workbench. We got some boxes stacked up here. We got to get rid of this stuff. Any books or manuals. I've got Dana over here. And she's got her computer out. Now, this is my old school textbook. I do research and reread things that I did learn in school. I don't want to put just random garbage on YouTube. I actually want to double check my facts. In fact, I do that with a couple of different welding books. Welding Essentials. I've got the Welder's Handbook, and my old textbook was Welding Principles and Applications by Larry Jeffis. This guy is awesome. There are people out there that don't necessarily agree with him, but hey, he wrote the textbook. I got all the welders over here. All that stuff seems to be pretty well in order. There's nothing over there that I have to worry about catching fire. Coming around here, ooh, look at this. Yep, my sister and my brother-in-law got my nieces a pool. This is chlorine mix. You definitely do not want anything chlorine related near a welding area. Bad. Down there, got a little bit of lacquer thinner, some paint. Again, we want to get rid of that stuff. Just take a quick look around your garage. Check your workbench. If you're going to be welding on your workbench, make sure that there's nothing flammable on it. You've got your boxes here. You don't really have to worry about wood too much. Wood is not going to just catch fire. You're worried about things like paper or cardboard, something like this. This is, that's actually a bill from a creditor. I'll probably set fire to that on purpose. But yeah, you just want to take a quick look around your shop and make sure everything is out of harm's way. Anything that a spark can touch that is flammable or that is easily combustible, you definitely want to make sure those things are out of your work area. Now, I have an advantage. I happen to have Dana in the garage. And the advantage to that is she is an extra pair of eyes. She can alert me if something goes wrong. When you're welding under your welding helmet, you're not going to necessarily see a fire starting. A fire is extremely dim compared to your welding arc. The first thing that's probably going to let you know if something wrong is your sense of smell. You will smell something burning. And by then, it might be too late. They say experience is the best teacher, and you learn from your mistakes. Well, both happen to be true in what I'm about to tell you. I happened to be welding something at the time. I believe I was using the MIG, and I didn't realize that there were papers underneath the stove. They were covered with so much dust, they were gray. They actually looked like sheet metal. And a couple of sparks made their way over there, and it did set the papers on fire. Now, luckily, we have mason board behind our stove, and I have a concrete floor, and it sure wasn't going to set the stove on fire, so I didn't have a lot to worry about. But it was kind of tense having a fire that close to me, and I have, the drill press and the lathe, and I just wanted to get the fire out. And I was wearing my father's welding gloves, and his hands are smaller than mine, and I was sweating. And what had happened was, it basically, it like suctioned to my hand. I could not get my gloves off. I'm trying to throw them off, I'm trying to pull them off, and I can feel the lining peeling back as I'm trying to bring my fingers out, and I just couldn't get the gloves off my hands. I reached for the fire extinguisher, and I tried pulling the pin out, and I couldn't get it out because the gloves were, older, and I didn't have a lot of dexterity in the finger. I was trying to get my, finger in the glove through the pin to pull it out of the fire extinguisher to get the safety off so I could just put the fire out, and I was panicking. Now, fortunately, since it was a wood-burning stove right here, and I didn't have anything else that was flammable in the area, I didn't have anything like lacquer thinner or anything like that, I just went over, picked up the whole pile of burning paper, because I was wearing my leather gloves, and just threw them in the stove. And that was the end of it. But if there were other flammable things in the area, I would have had a world of problems. And after that experience, it caused me to really take a look at my surroundings, and it also got me to modify my fire extinguisher too. Now, this is a ABC fire extinguisher, so it is good for electrical fires, it is good for chemical fires, and it's good for dry fires. The only thing this is not good for, and if you're doing welding on exotic metals, you're probably going to want, is a D class fire extinguisher. That D basically means it's good for combustible metals like magnesium and things of that nature. Now, I keep this under my welding table. And what I've done is I've taken a stainless steel welding rod and I have replaced that pin I could not get out of the safety. So what I have now is a loop that is big enough where I could stick my whole hand, welding glove and all, and rip that pin out of there and put the fire out and get this thing to work. Having a fire extinguisher around is a really good safety precaution, but if you can't get the fire out with the extinguisher that you have, it's relatively useless. So that's another one of those mistakes that I made that I'm hoping that everybody can learn from. Alright YouTube, the last stop on my safety recap is actually going to be talking about something I didn't address in the first video. And it's something that I feel is really important, and the topic that I'm going to touch on may be a little touchy to some people, but it's not designed to scare you, it's not designed to offend anyone. There are a lot of people in our country who enjoy a cigarette, and I have nothing against those folks. It's still a free country, mostly, so smoke if you got them. But 9 times out of 10 people who do smoke, their cigarettes are within arm's reach. Or they're somewhere on their person. You've got them in your front pocket, your shirt pocket, wherever. You don't really think of them as being hazardous, but they are. Not because of cancer or anything like that, but because of the thing that's usually carried with your cigarettes, it's a little butane lighter. Now, this is a full-size standard butane lighter. You can get these things at any convenience store, and millions of them are sold every year. Now, if you have this thing in your shirt pocket, and a strong enough spark goes through your shirt and cuts through this little bit of plastic, because there's not a lot here, the energy that's stored in this lighter is the same as a quarter stick of dynamite, and you do not want that anywhere near your body if this thing happens to go off. Like I said, I'm not trying to scare you guys. I'm trying to say that this is the worst case scenario if you're carrying one of these lighters. You could maim yourself, you could die. And it's something that's very serious. And I really do care about the people who take the time to watch these videos. I care about everybody who's out there who, they're trying something new. Welding is supposed to be something that is enjoyable. It's a learning experience. It's not supposed to be life-threatening. But the simple fact of the matter is sometimes it can be. You're dealing with a large amount of electricity. If you're dealing with torch cutting, you have acetylene gases. You have other types of fuel gases. You have oxygen, which is a fire accelerant. You know, there are a lot of hazards in this trade, and the reason that I'm doing this video and I'm retouching and recapping on all the safety stuff is specifically because I want people to enjoy this and I want people to be safe. So do me a favor, if you're going to use these things or smoke cigarettes, by all means, enjoy it, it's your right. But keep these lighters, keep them in your toolbox with the drawer closed, keep them out in your car, keep them as far away from your welding area as you can. In fact, anything you do not want destroyed by sparks or heat, keep away and keep it as far away as you can. Another thing that you're going to have on you, 90% of the population still carries them, cell phone. I have seen people melt their cell phones before because they forgot. It's like, yep, took it out of my pocket, set it on my bench, and I started welding. Because, you know, hey, I sit down at my computer desk, I take my phone out of my pocket, I sit it on the table. I sit down at dinner, I take my phone out of my pocket, I set it on the table. Well, there are people out there that have taken their brand new smartphones, their iPhones, whatever, they take it out of their pocket, they set them on the workbench, they start welding, and next thing you know, you don't have a touchscreen anymore. So that, along with checking your area to make sure there's no hazards, check to see what you've got on you to make sure there's no hazards either. Now, before I wrap this video, I'm going to give you a quick little tour of what we're kind of doing in the shop setting up for this video series. Our next video, we're actually going to break out the arc welder. We're going to start doing some shielded metal arc welding. We're going to be doing bead on plate, flat, horizontal, maybe vertical. I'm not going to go overhead simply because I really don't want to send that amount of sparks flying at my camera. It's one of those things, if you don't want it destroyed, keep it as far away as you can, and my camera happens to be one of those things. So I'm going to end the safety portion of the video here, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek of what Dana and I have been doing around the shop. Alright YouTube, Dana and I are really excited about all the different things that we have coming up. Now I know you haven't seen a video from us for quite a while actually, I think it was back in July, but we have really been gearing up to make videos. Now, one of the things that I said is that we want to have a good quality video. We don't want to just randomly throw things up there. We want to make sure that they're as good as they can be, because this is not just something we want to throw out to the internet. This is something we want people to learn from. Dana took the time to correct all of the spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes that I made on our website. Darkmoonmetals.com is alive and well, and it just kind of kicked off about a week ago. There are still a few pages that we need to add. There are 3. One is for forging, one is for our article page. I can't remember what the last page is off the top of my head, but we're going to get those last 3 pages added as soon as we can. Restoration. Dana just brought the site up. See, she has a computer. She's like high tech. So the website is up. There is a link on our YouTube page to our website. So you don't have to remember the name. You can just click there and it'll take you right to it. We've also gotten a few things for the shop that's going to make shooting videos a lot easier and increase the quality of what you're going to be able to see. And I'll show you that right now. Okay, guys and gals, the first thing I want to show you is this black backdrop that I had behind me the whole time. For those of you who are in the industry, you might recognize what this is, but for those of you who don't, this is a welding curtain, and believe it or not, it is transparent. This is the same intensity as a welding helmet. Now, the average welding helmet is shade 10, which shade is the level of darkness. The higher the number, the darker it is. This is a shade 8 welding curtain, and what this will allow us to do is Dana can film from one side and be completely protected while photographing and filming the arc and the weld puddle. Now, there's not a lot of good videos out there of actual welding itself. You've got a lot of lens flare. You have cameras that can't handle the intensity of the light. There are some people out there that have really nice equipment. I'm not one of those people, so we have to kind of improvise. Our goal with this is to take actual welding footage where you can see very similar to what I'm seeing under the welding helmet. And I believe that that is the type of perspective that you're going to need to get the idea that we're trying to get across of the weld puddle, your travel speed, and what you're looking for in a good quality weld. Now, another thing that we recently added is this light pole right here. A friend of mine told me that one of the problems that we were having with our video was all the fluorescent lighting in the garage. So when we're doing our welding and we're doing our videos from now on, We just rigged up this quick little light with some 100-watt floods. I got one in there that's fluorescent just for some extra light, but it's incandescent light mostly, which is going to be really good and translate well to film. So that is one of the things that we've been working on and experimenting with. We have all of our welders hooked up and ready to go. Now, you saw the video, hopefully, of wiring up the TIG. And I had mentioned that we're going to be doing stick welding, and yes, that is our next project. But if you notice this really, really nice 244 cubic foot tank on the back, that is argon. And that will allow me to start doing TIG welding, and it's something I've also been looking forward to for a long time. So we currently have the capability of doing MIG, TIG, stick, plasma, and over there we have our oxygen and acetylene torch kit. So we can cover a wide variety of welding processes, and we are looking forward to doing that. Dana and I have actually set a goal. We're going to try to produce 25 videos before the first of the new year, and we are going to do that, and if we can, we'll have a total of 50 videos, and the 50th video will be our blooper video, because believe me, we have a lot of outtakes just from what we've taken so far. So one last stop. This is kind of turning into a mini shop update, but I think you'll be excited. Let me move the welding curtain here. You may have seen this from an earlier video. This is my grandfather's old Atlas lathe. I found all the pieces to it. We had some things kind of scattered around from the move. But this lathe is back in its original working order. It needs a little bit more cleaning. But I'm also intending on doing some videos for turning metal and things of that nature. And, let's see here. So that's another thing that I'm really excited about. Well, YouTube, that's pretty much a little walk around our shop. And the other thing that you might notice, if you are a fan of my videos, there is a lot more floor space and storage space. That was cleared off before I started shooting, just take my word for it. But all around the base of the anvil, under the workbench table, I got the main welding table cleared off. I'll put the welding curtain back here. More floor space. Actually, another neat little thing here. I mounted the hose reel for the air compressor. That blue air line that goes out the back goes up through the ceiling, all the way on over to the other side, and you can see it above the plasma cutter. So I have a dedicated air line just for the plasma cutter, which is really nice because now I don't have to worry about people tripping over the air line. And the other nice thing that I've done with the air compressor, I took a plug out of the side of the air tank and put a second air line up. Now this air line right here, we used to have to swap this out with the other one. What this is for sandblasting, and it is a high volume, low pressure line that we use for sandblasting. It's something that my father got a few years back. Under that canvas and the air hose right there, that's actually the sandblasting chamber where all the sand is stored. I've got the sandblasting gun up there. Yes, it's in a Little Mermaid tin. Don't make fun of me. And I set this up so we can run the sandblasting line right out the window and do it in the back so we don't have to worry about getting all that grit and dust in the garage. So, like I said, we have the potential to make a lot more videos, and that is our goal. And Dana came on board and we started talking about, hey, what can we do to YouTube? What can we put out there? What can we teach people? And we have a list, and we're starting to check things off slowly but surely. But we are definitely shooting for 25 videos before the first of the year, so if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. So, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm Jeff at Darkmoon Metals, and...
I'm Dana, your resident Silent Bob.
Yes, she doesn't talk much, of course. I kind of talk way too much. I know, I'm working on that. But once again, Jeff and Dana, Darkmoon Metals, and we'll see you again soon.